Hello everyone. In this session, I would like to discuss about exception handling in Python. Okay, if you take any programming language, most of the times we get like syntax errors. Another one is like runtime errors. Syntax and runtime. When you can get the syntax error means if you not follow the syntactical rules of that particular programming language, then you can get like a syntactical errors. Runtime errors means it's not a syntactical error. While running your program or executing your program due to some input values, if your program terminated abnormally, that one we can say like a runtime error. The next one, due to some memory leaks. Okay, if my program terminated abnormally, that's also runtime error. The next one is like due to some logic issues. If you return some logic, okay, due to some logic, it throws, that means at runtime, if my program terminated abnormally, that one also we can say like a runtime error. Now, first of all, I want to show the syntax errors. Okay, when my syntax errors, you can get it in Python, I want to show it. Let me open Visual Studio Code. Just create one file, exceptions.py. Okay, just you can write. Okay, print hello. Okay, now let me run it in the terminal. Get the terminal and run it. Py exceptions.py. Now you can get like hello or not. For example, think if this bracket is not there. Let me save it. If you come here, now say this, you can get a syntax error or not. You can get a syntax error or not. Okay, if you not follow the syntactical rules, then you can get this syntax errors. The next one is like a runtime errors. Before start with runtime, what is the normal termination? Normal program termination. Another one is like what is abnormal program termination means. For example, just write some statements like this. Okay, print two, print three. What is normal termination means my execution starting from this particular statement, first statement, and my execution should have to end with the last statement. Each and every statement executed and come last. Okay, that means in my program, how many statements are there? Each and every statement executed. Okay, that means each and every statement execution is completed. That means at the end you can say like it's a normal termination. Okay, now come here. If I run this one, see each and every line executed or not, it's like a normal termination. Now come here. If I write some piece of code like this, I'll say this. 1, 2 executed, 10 by 0, it throws an exception at runtime. Zero division error. Okay, after that, these two statements not executed. That means starting to ending, is it executed or not executed? Not executed. Here and in the line number 3, okay, my program terminated abnormally or not. This is called as an abnormal termination. Now you can define at runtime any error raised. That error we can say like a exception. At runtime any error it throws, that one we can say like a exception. So whenever the exception raised, my program is terminated abnormally like this. Whenever my exception raised, my program terminated abnormally. If my program terminated abnormally, if you not fix this issue, always these two lines of code will never execute or not. So what we have to do means whenever the exception raised, you should have to handle that exception properly, and then remaining statements you have to make it like execute. You have to execute those remaining statements and you have to make that program termination normally or not. Okay, means the exception handling, what it means. Exception handling handles the exception and providing some other solution to remaining statements execution and helps to terminate your program normally or not. That is right, exception handling. To handle the exceptions in Python, okay, there are some keywords are there. Okay, one is like try, another one is like except, another one is like finally, another one is like rise. So try black, okay, you can say like a try black. Where we are using this try black means my try black, wherever the problematic statements are there, don't write that problematic statements directly inside, okay, this particular, okay, directly don't write outside, just keep inside the black. The black name is like a try black, so that keep your problematic statements inside the try black, inside the try black. Now what is an except? What is an except block means whenever my try black, whenever my try black throws an exception, then that time my corresponding except block is going to execute to handle that exception. So you can write like except, except. Here you can say like invalid inputs, inputs. Now come here. Whenever it tries an exception, then the time my except block is going to execute. After that, my remaining statements will execute as usual. My program will terminate normally or not. Now, can you come here? Can you check it? Can you check it? Now, say this 1, 2, invalid inputs, invalid inputs. Okay. After that, the important thing is like 3, 4 also executed. It terminate my program like normally or not. It's like a normal termination or not. Okay, that means raising an exception, raising an exception where exactly line number 4. That statement should not keep outside. Keep that statement inside the try black. Problematic statements you should have to write inside the try black. Okay, then. Now, when this catch block, that means when this except block is going to execute, means whenever my try block returns, throws any exception, then only this except block is going to execute. If this is not throws any exception, then the time my except block will never execute. See this 1 to 5.0 and 3, 4. This except block is not executed or not. The except block is not executed. Now the next one is like finally. Finally, here the except block you can write like multiple block, multiple except blocks also based on your requirement. Based on your requirement, you can write like multiple except blocks also. Okay, my except blocks always like, okay, first one you have to keep like a children's, remaining last one is like a parent, last one is like a parent, last parent is nothing but except this one, you can take it. So multiple except blocks also we can write it. Multiple except blocks also we can write it. Now I want to give one example with multiple except blocks. Now come here. Just you can write like one try block. I want some input. I want some input. Enter number. Enter number. Done. They provided a number. That number in the string value I convert into int. Perfect. The next one is like y value, int input, enter, enter another number, enter number. This is my first number, you can say. This is my second number, you can say. Now here I'm writing like result equals to x by y, x by y. Now the possible exceptions, if my y value is like 0, one exception raised. Think if my second value, if you pass like a string or something, it's not possible to convert into int or not. That's like a value error or not. So that different exceptions we can handle it by using multiple except blocks. Except the first one is like what, 0 division error. Okay, this is like exception class. Division error. Okay, Here you can write like one print whatever it is. Okay. Cannot divided by 0. Divided by 0. The next one is like except multi except blocks I told, right? Value error. This is also one more error. 0 division. DIVISION. See this, there is a spelling mistake is there. That's the reason the color is like different color here. DIVISION, right? So that you can keep like check that one. Okay, value are predefined things all are like in different color. Okay, print invalid number. Invalid number. Now let me run it. Let me run it. Now if you observe here, enter first number. I entered 4. Enter second number 2. Okay, there is no problem at all. This is my result. If you want to print it, you can print it. I didn't print. Okay, you can print it. Now again you can run 4 the value is like 2 or not. Again you can run 4 0. Then the tendency cannot divided by 0. It throws an exception. The matching the exception is like 0 division error or not. So that except is going to catch that. Okay, that except black is going to execute by catching that exception or not. The next one is like, okay, the number is like a such in. So this invalid number or not. Is it like a valid number? No, right? It's like invalid number or not. Like this, you can work with multi X blocks. Okay, now you can write like 0 division value error. At last, if the exception is not matched with the 0 division error and value error, finally you can write at last you have to write your okay except. It's like a there is no value nothing. It's like a parent one you can say. Okay, it should be in the last always. Okay, exception raised. Like this also you can write it. Okay, this is like try with multi except blocks. The next block also there that is called as a finally block. Finally block. Okay, this block is always execute. Finally block. When exactly it's going to execute, you know. If try block raises an exception, then only my except block is going to execute either this one or this one or this one. If the try block is not raise an exception, then the time except block will never execute or not. But come to my finally one. If the exception raised in the try block or my exception is not raised in the try block, always my finally block is going to execute. That means, okay, it's like a default. Okay, exception there or not there, always it is going to execute. Which type of code we are going to write in the finally black means, okay, irrespective of exception rising or not rising, some cleanup operations you have to perform. Okay, that type of cleanup operations we can do by using this finally black. So inside this finally black, always write, better to write a cleanup operations. Okay, cleanup operation related code you can write it. Now if you observe here, see this, my exception raised, okay, 4 and 2, no exception, nothing. No exception, nothing. Okay, just save it. I didn't save, right? That's the reason it's not executed. Okay, save. Exception not raised first. Exception not raised. See, this is my result, finally block executed. Exception raised, for example. My exception raised cannot divided by 0. My finally black executed or not. Either exception raised or exception not raised, always my finally black will execute. Okay, done. The next one, try catch finally done, right? The last one is like a rise. What is this rise? Where exactly we are going to use this rise means, okay, some of the exceptions divided by 0, okay, conversion, these all are handled by Python by default. For example, some of the things sometimes, okay, based on my requirement, that exception may not be handled by the Python. For example, best example is like, okay, take salary. If my salary is like a negative, then that time it's a invalid value or not. But here my Python not handled salary negative or positive. My Python by default don't know. Salary is like a number. That number may be positive number or negative number. It's not a matter. But as a developer, you know the salary always like what positive number. It should not be negative number. Then that time you have to create your own exceptions. Then that time you have to create your own exceptions. So how we can create your own exception? How we can create your own exception? Okay, just right. If you want to create your own exception, some steps you have to follow. First thing, create one exception class. Okay, the exception class already told right for you. Okay, if you see this one, this is my exception class. Zero division error, value error. These are like exception classes by default given by Python. Same like that, I want to create my own exception class. My own exception class. So that can we create the class first? Class my exception. My exception. Okay, that exception should be extends from the base exception class. Base class is like exception, and then you can write like init. It's like a constructor. Okay, while raising that exception, they provide you like some message. Okay, cannot divisible by 0. That type of message also you can get it or not. So that message also you can handle it. Okay, so that self you can write it. This is my argument. Now my self dot argument equals to argument. That's it. My self dot argument equals to argument. Okay, this is my exception. My exception class should be extends from where the predefined superclass called as a exception. Inside that one, you can create one. You can create one constructor. Okay, it's like an instance variable is nothing but your class object, and the next one is like a exception message. You can say message. Exception message. Okay, whatever the message you pass, invalid yes or whatever it is. Okay, if you give like a my exception instead of this one, my invalid salary is my exception. Okay, first this exception class I want to use it. So how we can write like a try block. Okay, just you can ask like a salary into, just you can write like input, right? Input of enter salary. Enter salary. Now here print salary. Print salary. After that you can write like accept. Now which accept block you want me to give? That is the question. Accept. You already created your own exception class, right? That exception class you can keep here. That exception class you can keep here. That exception class you can keep here. Okay, now you should have to write some piece of code like print salary should not be negative. Now come here. Okay, write this one. Enter salary. Okay, if I put like 100, my output is like 100. Enter salary. Cannot open the file, no such file or directory. Is there, right? Okay, py exceptions.py. Enter salary minus 100. I entered. Now see this here also it gives me like minus 100 only or not. You know the salary should not be minus. So you can write if my salary is less than 0, then that time you can raise your own exception. You can raise your own exception. Where is my exception? This is my exception or not. With which message? That message you can pass it. Okay, salary should positive. salary should positive. This is my message or not. Now whenever you enter the salary is like minus, is like a negative, then the time this block is going to execute, you raise an exception. Which exception? Invalid salary exception. So that that exception already handled by using except, so that this block is going to execute or not. This block is going to execute, and this message also is going to print. Now come here. If the exception, this is not there, this is not there, then the time, yeah, as usual, you can write, you can print your salary. You can print your salary. Now see this. Enter salary 20,000. No problem. It's printed. Enter salary. Okay, minus 20,000. Then that time. Now see this. Salary should not be negative. Salary should not be negative. Like this, you can get the message or not. Like this, you can get the message or not. This is the way we can raise your own exceptions. You can raise your own exceptions. That means you can create your exception, okay, wherever you want. Okay, based on your requirement, just you can raise an exception and you can handle it or not. Okay, this is the concept. We can say like how I can create my own exceptions. My own exceptions. If you want to create your own exception, your class should be extends inherit from your exception class. Okay, this one we can say like a message. Whatever the message I passed, see this, you called invalid salary. Okay, this is the method. This is the class you are calling by passing this one as a message or not. So that self-dot message equals to message. That message wherever you want, you can print it. Okay, once you get this one here, you can print it. You can get that message and you can print it. Thanks guys. Thanks for watching.